All right. Today, in this video, we're going to be splitting the middle term. All right, we're splitting the middle term. We're going to learn to factor a trinomial with a leading coefficient that's other than 1. Okay, and then to solve quadratics with leading coefficients other than 1 as well. All right, now, here's the deal. You have done splitting the middle term before. Remember, the quadratic has a standard form where it's ax squared plus bx plus c. If solving, set the equation equal to 0, then follow the following steps. First question we always have to ask ourselves, is there a greatest common factor? All right, that's the first thing we ask ourselves when factoring anything. Is there a GCF? Okay. These next steps, all right, are for splitting the middle term. Now, if we're looking at this first one here, okay, some of us may be able to jump to it right away and may be able to guess and check, and we're good at guess and check, and we're comfortable using guess and check, and that's fine if you're one of those people. But here's the deal. Some of these numbers, like when I'm looking over here, it's going to be tough. Guessing and checking is going to be tough. So understanding how to split the middle term, all right, is a good idea. Okay, it's a good skill to have for sure. All right, so well, how do we do it? First, GCF. Second thing we want to do is do A times C and figure out what multiplies to A times C, first term times the last, and adds to our B term, or middle term. Rewrite it by splitting the middle term, factor by grouping, useful in a trinomial. So let's try one. All right, again, if you're able to guess and check, then guess and check it up. But I'm going to multiply my A term by my C term. So I need to figure out what multiplies to negative 18 and adds to positive 3. Now, for some people, writing out the factors of 18 can be helpful. All right, it's not going to be required of you by any means, just to see the numbers, okay? Not going to be required by you by any means. You want to use your calculator to guess and check it up, that's totally fine. All right, but I need negative 18 and adds to positive 3, which means it needs to be negative 3 and positive 6. So, multiply A times C. Did that. Rewrite by splitting the middle term. So I take this middle term and split it into these two numbers. I'm going to write 6x minus 3x, and the minus 2 and the 9x squared come down along for the ride. Now, it does not matter which one you put first. Okay, I can put the negative 3 here and the 6 there. For all intents and purposes, I'm just going to continue to put the bigger number first, whether it's positive or negative. Next thing I want to group. Next thing my step was factor by grouping. I have 4 terms. I can do 2 by 2 grouping here. All right. If I'm looking at the greatest common factor between 9x squared and 6x, which is 3x. 9x squared divided by 3x is 3x plus 2. Between negative 3, now remember, I want to pull out a GCF such that this, inside my parentheses, is 3x plus 2. And I recognize I have negative 3x minus 2, so I'm just going to take out a negative 1. Okay? Factor by grouping. When factoring by grouping, I want to make sure that when I took out a GCF, that this parentheses here is the same as that parentheses there. Since they are, I win. That, whatever was repeated, becomes one of my factors. All right? If I were to take out this 3x plus 2 in this first portion here, I will be left over with 3x. Now that I've taken out this 3x plus 2, I'm left over with a negative 1. Like that. So how does this factor? 3x plus 2 times 3x minus 1. Okay. In this next step, we're going to take it a step further. We're going to solve by factoring. All right, but in order to do that, the first step I have to do, I need to write this in standard form, so I need my trinomial to equal 0. In order to factor, it must be equal to 0. All right, well, I just factored 9x squared plus 3x minus 2. That factors as 3x plus 2 and 3x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, when I'm completely factored down, okay, and I have a binomial times a binomial, okay, maybe a number out front, The zero product property says that since I have two things multiplied together and equal to 0, I can set each factor equal to 0 and solve. This should be x equals negative 2 over 3, and x should equal 1 over 3 here. Boom. Boom. All right. There's the first one. Let's try. How about that? Isn't that sick? Another one. Okay, split in the middle term. First thing, I need to multiply A times C. Now, first question I got to ask myself, is there a greatest common factor? There is not a number that goes into 10, 23, and 12. So I can go ahead and multiply A times C. So 1 multiplies to positive 120 and adds to positive 23. This will require a lot of guessing and checking, a lot of thinking about the factors of 120, like 10 and 20, obviously, but keep going. I got 8 and 15. Okay, so my middle term is split into 15x plus 8x. The 10x squared and the 12 are along for the ride. Factor by grouping. Group the first two. Group the second two. GCF between 10x squared and 15x. 5x. To get 2x buckets. Okay, 5x. And that gives me 2x plus 3. Between 8x and 12, I get plus 4. And that gives me 2x plus 3. So again, I won again because I had 2x plus 3 appearing twice. So one factor is 5x plus 4. The other factor is my 2x plus 3. And that would be factoring that expression. So similar to this one over here, I'm going to solve this one now. So I know that I factored it as 5x plus 4 and 2x plus 3, and that's still equal to 0. Zero product property, set each factor equal to 0 and solve. X gives me negative 4 over 5, and x gives me negative 3 over 2. Boom. All right. Here we go. We're cruising. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get you started on this one, then I'm going to let you go. All right, so I got 16x squared plus 44x minus 42 equals 0. I feel as though there may be a greatest common factor here. I just have a hunch. All right. Since these are all even, that means they're all divisible by 2. So I'm going to take a 2 out of every single one and have 8x squared plus 22x, minus 21. And that's equal to 0. All right. So 2 ended up being the GCF. All right. So I'm going to do the same process. Okay, I'm just going to look at this inside. The 2 is just going to carry down along. All right, now when you're doing this, remember you want to do 8 times 21, which is negative 168. So it multiplies to negative 168 and what adds to 22. All right, why don't you go ahead and pause it from here, okay? And you can see my work. All right, so I'm just going to stop here. Here's what I came up with. I came up with negative 6 and 28, so I splitted 22 to 28 and negative 6. All right, then I factored by grouping here, okay? Pulled out that 4x, pulled out the negative 3, and got 2x plus 7 and 4x minus 3. Now remember I said the 2 comes along for the ride, okay? Now technically what we're going to do here is set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x, right? So x equals negative 7 over 2. X equals 3 over 4. All right, now, technically, 2 does not equal 0, so I can really throw this one out. All right, there is going to be an instance, like if I were to take out an x here, like a 2x instead of just the 2, where I would care about this factor. All right, in that case, I would have x equals 0. Another way to figure out, okay, I only need 2 roots or solutions for x, well, the degree of our polynomial is 2, which means I should have 2 possible solutions. Okay? All right, if you flip it over to the back, this is just more practice. If you want, obviously, if you feel comfortable splitting the middle term, okay, then don't worry about it. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to pause the video again, and then I'm going to put my work up in a minute so you can check your work if you want to check your work. All right, so go ahead and pause it, check some work, check it out. All right, so here was my work for the back. Okay, this one right here, the first one, you could have guessed and checked. It was actually a pretty easy one to guess and check. Okay, same with this one. You could have potentially guessed and checked that one as well. All right, but down here, notice I put the 6 first and the 7 second there, and I put the negative 4 first and negative 5 second there. Again, it doesn't truly matter. Okay, you're still going to come up with the same result in the end. All right, that is splitting the middle term.